Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us on our podcast. I hope everyone had a great weekend and is having a great week so far. We have a very special guest on, and she was on Friday as well in our roundtable, Simone. So thank you, Simone, for joining us again. And today we'll talk a little bit more about her path and what she has planned for the future. So without further ado, I will kick it off. So I know on our live, Simone, we kind of covered some of this information, but I think it's good to talk about it in more of like a present tense, as far as like some of the feelings or technically they call it imposter syndrome, but like how have you been able to fight through those feelings even now, being someone who's been an entrepreneur for about 30 years or so? How do you continue to be able to get past those types of feelings?
Because they definitely show up.
Yes, they do.
Thanks for asking, because they don't ever really go away, because you have new circumstances, new eras in your business, you do something new. I think I mentioned, we're in our second generation in our business, and that's certainly not anything I've ever done before. So I think the biggest thing that's for me is how I've been. You want me to say how, or just what's there? It's just nothing I've ever done before, so it hasn't gone away. And how I've done that is really to see how we're going to do it, put systems in place to really do that. One was we just declared we're doing this. Yes. And I'll tell you some of the things we did, and then I'll tell you kind of what the things we did to deal with that. We put a autoresponder on my email that said, I'm not, it was, it was eloquent, well written, but I'm not available anymore in the daily. And it said all the right things and stuff and who to go to and stuff. But as an example, when we did that, I was getting 70% of the company's emails.
Oh, wow.
We're 10 people.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe a month or two before we did that, I said to my daughter, I feel like all I do every day is respond. It was exhausting. Mm-hmm. And then when we looked at the statistics, and we have software that tells us how, I was getting 70% of the email and dealing with that. So it was something like that. So really there are structures we put in to start to ensure that. And I have an EA that started to manage, and I had an EA, but then we actually put an EA to manage my inbox.
So go ahead. I apologize. I apologize. Go for it.
One example of we put systems in to interrupt what was coming up for me, to ensure that the systems where we said I wasn't going to be in the daily operations anymore in place.
Mm-hmm. So I want to take that conversation one step further. Okay. When you decide to do something new, and it's a crazy idea, because we've all had them, and there are those ideas that hit you, and it could be a shower thought, or it could be the random when you're pushing your grocery cart and you're like, I have to do this. This has to happen. But then there's all those series of conversations that we go through in our head before we even open our mouth to tell anybody the crazy. Okay. That I feel like is the moment when we really have to deal with the imposter syndrome, because it's easy for us to say that's too crazy of an idea and dismiss. So what do you do in those times when you know there's a big transition in your business or something you want to add that is foreign to you? Mm-hmm. What do we do in those moments?
I tell somebody we're going to do it before I chicken out.
Okay. I love that. I love that. Yes.
Someone is going to hold you accountable and not let you not do it.
I do. I tell somebody before who's going to take action. Otherwise, I'll chicken out. And I know myself well enough, I'll chicken out, as they say.
We have a term for that around here, but I'm not allowed to say it on camera. And it starts with a swear word and an it after it. And it's actually on my list, Simone, to actually come up with a effort moment every single day, and to have an effort moment, because it's so easy when imposter syndrome kicks in to go into analysis paralysis, or whatever you may want to call it. Totally. It's like they work hand in hand. It's like this ball and chain effect. And so if we can jump that line even in our own brains, and just go for it and shoot the rabbit off and let the dogs chase it. Hey,
that's right. Some people have staff, some people have software, some people just put it in action themselves, but it's that performance is a function of action or inaction. So it's I put it in play, and
then there's no turning back. And is it normally start off with something about like, I did this, or I did a thing, and we're going to do a thing, and we're not going to talk about it, we're already doing it? And is that pretty much about how the conversation begins?
It is. And my staff will go, okay, Simone. Okay. And I would say 98% of the time, I'm pretty much on point. And 2% of the time they go, okay.
So there you go. Perfect. Lee, did you have any other questions for her too?
Well, that kind of leads into
we're going right through it.
Right. The next question about systems in place. And I know we also talked about this a little bit on Friday. But I mean, yeah, if you had talked about you had systems in place in your business, then you handed it to your daughters and you stepped away from the day-to-day. And there are still systems in place that you're now trying to implement with your daughter. And then you mentioned systems again, and any new venture or any new step that you want to take, it's systems are a part of that. So it just, the importance of having a system in place. And if you could just kind of, summarize how important that has been for you, and for especially for now that you've stepped away from the day-to-day.
Yeah, I will. So let me tell you the number one thing. I, for 20 years, couldn't see, we're virtual and we have a staff of 10, and I couldn't see specifically what everyone accomplished in a given day. It used to be in Excel spreadsheets, which we paid a lot of people a lot of time to do what I thought was superfluous work, reporting on it. And we had gone through all these systems over the 20 years of using systems that said they would do that and didn't really do what I thought it should do. And I had run law firms, and we had systems that were literally in the COBOL world that did something like that, but I had not found something, I don't know, that for the cost of the system,
yes,
did something better than just paying people to fill out Excel spreadsheets. And then in the last, I think it's probably last year and a half, 18 months, we've implemented a system, and that reporting, but just recently, I have now, after 20 years, can see a dashboard that tells me what people are doing.
That's awesome.
So being able to see what your staff does, and my staff's great. Our staff is extraordinary. They are hardworking, they're intelligent, and they're introverted accountants. So, there's still things you have to manage them to do, but I can see it. I can see what they did. That, incredible. My next step is to develop the next, iteration of management to value that, what they're seeing. That's my next thing. But I would say that system of that, it captures it, that it says it's already doing all the things it should do for the staff, for our clients, like that. But now it's providing a management dashboard so that we can have the ability to grow. There's no yelling down a hall when you're a virtual firm.
Right.
Yelling down a hall management is, or even, on Teams or whatever. But now they can actually see what's coming, what was done, at the click of a button, which is useful for the staff.
You brought up a very, very good point, and it's something we've had our moments with too. And I think you just actually opened up a whole can of worms conversation. So you can rein me in whenever. But when you are doing specific tasks for your own company, as you're building your own company, Lee can tell you how many times have I called her and said, I want a program that does this of this program, but it needs to do it this way from this program. And if it just did this, I'd have a perfect program. But it doesn't exist.
Right? They don't exist.
And everything with the digital side of it is freeing, but at the same time, you make a lot of the programs and the systems smushed together to be the right package.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very frustrating. I mean, I could tell you how many we've gone through too, and it's a good amount as well.
A lot. It's a lot.
Is. Like, even just a project management tool, like that's right, is been one of the most difficult things when we've gone through several different versions ourselves. And the problem too can be the amount of time it takes to learn a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So do we devote more time to finding a new one and training and moving, or do we just keep going? Right? Am I speaking your language here?
The software package we're on right now for our CRM, we were on previously.
Mm-hmm.
Went to 2 other systems and then came back to it.
Mm.
Because and I'll tell you, because it did 70% of what we needed, but not the reporting. We tried to get that, and then came back to it because they finally added reporting, and they added reporting, and they have another package that's business intelligence that you have to add on for another, I don't know, $20,000 a year, which we will.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we're just doing the reporting.
So how would you advise a new entrepreneur? Let's use your space, in the accounting world. You're just starting out and you're like, okay, just like, what are the first 3 or 4 steps you'd say, please take? And
I would say get a decent CRM. Start with a decent CRM that can get you 80% of the way there.
Yes, I agree.
We use a CRM, and then I have 3 core packages from the 3 distinct areas of our business. Now we're a $1 million firm. We have 10 employees, so not huge by any measure. We're small, but we're scalable with 3 systems. Yes. We can grow to be 3 million. So we're scaled for a $1 million to $3 million jump.
That's amazing. And Simone, I'm glad you brought up the term CRM, because we haven't talked about that a lot in this group yet,
right?
Because of the variety of entrepreneurs that are in it. But we come from the world of building CRMs. So it's something that we're very knowledgeable on.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is there are a few options out there within any industry that is custom CRM based versus just a blanket, you get the cookie cutter version.
Yeah.
And that's something when you grow as an entrepreneur. And again, the mindset of building the traditional, more storefront kind of approach to a business versus the modern approach.
Mm-hmm.
And a built out CRM, a lot of people think about that a year or 2, 3 into building a company. And I believe that should be part of your day one.
It's going to be core because you're going to do so much.
Yes.
So we looked at Monday. We used Insightly in between our two, because the one we use is industry specific. So I want to be salient to mention here. But we looked at Monday. We used Insightly. There's a lot of other ones. I wouldn't use HubSpot, or that gets too expensive straight out of the gate for small people. But you've got to have something to put all those key things in.
Yes.
And,
we actually we offer a custom one of it's a go high level version. So it's one of the biggest ones, and it's all customized. But to your point, there are specific things within each industry you needed to do. Yeah. And so so I completely
have something that's holding everything in this day and age. And number one thing is that you get to own your data.
Yes. Yeah. And the question I wanted to ask you, because it's very interesting. So you mentioned something when you were on your live with us, that you said that you had to rebuild the relationship with your client base because of buying out your partner. Mm-hmm. And it was a very specific reason why you felt you needed to get back in touch with your clientele. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the questions that we wanted to ask you was, how did you do that? What was the message that you conveyed? So if a newer, younger entrepreneur has to go through a major rebranding for whatever reason, how do they accomplish that? So a lot of times when we ask this, it's what message do you want people to know to attract them to you? Okay, so it's pretty simplified. But for your approach, what would you recommend for younger entrepreneurs when that moment happens, because it's going to, let's just put it out there that it's a rite of passage. You have to go through different versions of your company. Mm-hmm. How did you get through that, and what message did you portray to your client base?
Okay, so we did rebrand, and we packaged it as quarterly account reviews.
Okay.
And then we said it was a value add for them that we added.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we met with them, we shared with them what we were doing. And anytime we went with them, we added value to their engagement.
So even though it was a reason that was kind of outside of your control, you chose to use it as a pivoting point with your clientele to strengthen the relationship, but you also gave them something for it.
That we were already doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would liken it to, you're staying with us here at ABC Hotel. I just want to let you know that you have access to the hotel's pool. They had no idea behind that black wall out back there was a pool.
I love it.
Pool exists and it's been available for use the whole time. We just want you to know it's there. There's towels out back. We'd love for you to use the pool. But they had no idea that service was
right.
And they didn't know. But we creating value in their engagement with us for things that were already available to them.
I think that's a wonderful idea. And again, something I've learned over the 20 years of being an entrepreneur, there is never going to be the same two clients that view you the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's like, okay, we are Grit and King. This is what we do. Okay, great. But if I asked 10 clients, each of those clients would give me a different version back of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So for us, it was an opportunity to really create our value and add a value, and then an opportunity to really get back in that, because we were doing it as an account review. We got from them what was working, what wasn't working, the scariest question entrepreneurs don't want to ask their clients is, what is the one thing in this industry that you really don't like about working with this type of vendor?
Yes.
An accountant, tax, marketing, and then pausing. And then they say, la, 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 la. And then you have to find out the things it's like asking somebody when you're performing with them to find out where you're failing. You don't want to ask that question, but it's the most potent question you can ask, because then you find out where you actually can perform with people to have your engagement be the stickiest.
Yes, I agree.
And we asked that question, and we ensured that we performed in those areas.
I think a lot of companies, it's a don't ask, don't tell kind of feel, because it's like you're so busy putting out fires and you're trying to keep everything going, but actually doing those touch points with clients, client retention is vastly underspoken about in education right now. I feel like for entrepreneurs,
and it's scary.
It is, but
it never stops being scary. By the way,
there is so much value in keeping clients versus charging and churning.
It's hard to get new clients.
It is
easier to keep them.
Yeah, and once you have them trained into your system, and that's not meant in a derogatory way at all. It's just the fact that once they're trained into how you do things. I remember I had the same clients for 15 years in my old industry, and people were shocked. I mean, they'd walk in, they know what I was accomplishing without them. They didn't get uncomfortable with me not speaking to them. They gave me my space to be prepared for them. And then they knew exactly how I was going to do it, how quick I was going to get done with what the service was, and then get them back out the door. And I know it sounds funny, but it's the same principle. I don't care if I was a hairstylist back then and now that I'm working in a totally different capacity for them. But the principle is the same, is that training period that I went through. And then I got to the point where I had such a wait list that when I actually got a new client, sometimes it was like, wait a minute, hold on. Oh, yeah, I probably should explain things, not just point, things that simple. But it is very, very true that
and to
that long term is so beautiful.
Yeah, and to Lee's question, in systems, we spent that year, our strategy was one of the strategies for the year was training our clients to be great clients, which was onboarding and those quarterly business reviews and stuff, was that we had to train ourselves to be training our clients to be great clients. And that's how we really, I think, in my mind, it was like turning a battleship. It takes time to turn a battleship. Yes. It is not a quick and agile thing. So we just did the things that would, like you're saying, you're training your clients, but if they don't know what you expect of them and they don't know, so we there was lots of things we put in our systems when we onboarded people. You had, this are your rules and responsibilities. This is what's expected of you. This is how. And so we did all of those things, and we had a really high rate of retention with the existing clients, and it worked. I mean, it did work. We kept almost all the clients.
That's a beautiful process. But you brought up a very good point that even onboarding has to have a system, follow through has to have a system. We talk about that all the time within Grit and King, that every single piece that makes our company run has a system attached to it. And there's then going to be little projects that support that system. So it's never one and done. Hate to burst anybody's bubble, sorry, but it's the truth. No. It's never 100% done. And to me, I always think about our entire system as a business is a conveyor belt. And it is our job to look over the conveyor belt and see all the pieces coming together and sliding down and coming together more and sliding down. But if you can get that working as a continuous system, so much of the stress is gone.
Yeah.
It's the building the system part that causes the stress, and not having it will quadruple your stress. Yeah. So by creating the system from day one and then refining it is the best way for any younger entrepreneur, is the one thing that I think. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to date, and this is a question for you about accomplishments. What is it that you're the most proud of? Like there's got to be something that, within the, and it can be a silly story. We encourage silly stories, but it could be the best story ever. You've never gotten a chance to tell anybody else. You don't also have to tell us. That's okay. Whatever you're comfortable with. But, it doesn't have to be your business right now, but over the course of you being an entrepreneur, the story that you're like, I did this. What would it be?
The best accomplishment.
That's a pretty big one.
That is a pretty big one, because I have, I would say, when I started this business many moons ago, we had physical offices in downtown Seattle. So my biggest accomplishment was moving home and becoming virtual.
I love that.
So people, when we first started being virtual, it was in the era when, it was not in the era of Zoom.
You're right.
In the prior, you used stuff, and we had to connect, and we worked with a lot of law firms. So we had computers in libraries in the law firms. So we would say, we're going to connect remotely. That's what we used. And they would say, like the NSA. You had to, with a straight face, go, no, we're not. That's the weirdest question. And I got it more than once. People would
that's funny.
I'd be like, why does everybody think we're the NSA? Like, no, I'm just dialing into a computer in your law library. Like, so when we started being remote and not having my staff drive to their offices, people would ask us things or like some other government agency. That's how
So you pioneered the remote NSA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. But
our biggest accomplishment was we were part of the legion of people all those many moons ago who we piloted being remote workers.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That is a wonderful accomplishment.
Yes.
So many people have fought it for so long, and companies, I should say. And again, if you have the right people in place, we can work from all over the world. Our team is from all over the world now. And we're really proud of that. Like sometimes I'll get an email saying, I thought a meeting was at this time. And I sent an email back the other day. I said Central Time. And it was, I'm so sorry. I'll see you then. But that's okay. Those things happen.
My signature, I'm in other organizations, right? And my signature says Pacific Time, and has for years, because I meet East Coast and in India, and I was a CFO with a company that had offices in India, and you had to learn 12 and a half, 13.
Right. I haven't quite gotten that conversion down in my head yet, but it is always a thought. That's why every text, email, whatever I send when somebody requests a meeting, I always put CST, because just to cut down on the confusion a bit.
Totally. So that's probably my favorite is we were one of those pilots that
I love that.
Yeah.
So big dream going forward. We know your daughters are now working with you. We know that You have the multi-generational aspect of being entrepreneurs, and there's so many accomplishments we can pick from for you and say that we're really impressed, and we have big shoes to follow, to fill now too, as you have listed out your accomplishments. But what's in the future? What is that future accomplishment that you have not enjoyed yet? It's coming.
It's coming. I would say evergreen products. So for us, it's really evergreen products. Yes. I stopped doing the contract CFO work, and we've accomplished the things I intended to accomplish when I stopped doing that. And now it's to discover how to have multiple streams in the practice. Yes. And one of those is for me to get my mind around evergreen products, because I can see I stopped doing the big engagements because I love small business. It is the lifeblood of our country. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's really the evergreen products. Post-COVID, there's a lot of people who will begin to see look for exactly the reason we just said. It is not just okay, it's common practice to work from home. And so new businesses will start to blossom in different ways. We don't even know the way business will now become more decentralized.
Yes.
I want to have evergreen products available for people. I read an article last night. It was like the Washington Post, where someone was a sex worker, but she had been a CPA, and nobody services that. Now, I'm not suggesting that in any measure, or I'm in Washington where there were cannabis products. Those are extreme. But I'm talking about everything else that's normal, that we can't even think of, that it's industries that are going to be affected by the new era.
Oh, I agree.
Your companies will serve and grow and thrive financially from.
Or I have another aspect of that we are recognizing right now, that the school program that we've just launched that would, aid people that want to become entrepreneurs. It's in English, and we've already had inquiries from people around the world asking if they can participate. And our answer is, as long as you are comfortable. Like that's, and I honestly, not that I didn't think, because we teach that we're in a global scale now, not, you don't have to work within your city or state, but just witnessing it firsthand has been a real amazing process and solidify how much we need to accomplish. Yeah. We are going to take our program and translate it into other languages as well because of that, because we can see there's a real need for it. But it is crazy, like, to actually sit there and process this, and not in a Terminator scenario or Matrix or whatever.
Yeah, but like my husband participated with this company in the MSP sector that had the systems and how to do it. And I mean, my dream that I haven't even figured out is, how could I do that for all the small accounting firms, not the CPA firms, but the bookkeeping and payroll taxes, for all those firms who don't know how to scale.
Yes.
Don't know how to be more than a couple. Mm-hmm. And there are hundreds of thousands of them.
And probably a lot of them have the desire to scale.
They would love to be bigger. They would love not to work. I have a friend who's my age. Mm-hmm. Over the pandemic, she had been trying for 14 years to be pregnant and have a baby. She flew to a Slavic nation and got pregnant and has a baby who's the same age as my youngest grandson. And she works 5 times as much as I do. Mm. She has one person who works with her, but she doesn't know how to scale. Yes. I was like, oh my God. So now we talk every Friday. Well, I can't do that. That doesn't scale. So how do I create something that scales? That would be my,
okay, so that's the big dream.
BHAG, as they say, would be to have something like that for people like her, where they have small practices, but they don't have, and she's bought, I've now talked to her. That's why we talk over Friday now. She spent $14,000 on systems, which are forms and checklists, but she doesn't have the concept or the context to scale her firm. So to create an evergreen product, or even an organization where they could all belong to, that they could use the systems that we do that allow us to scale. That would be my
big dream. Why any company like yours, Simone, I always talk to them about, even just as simple as a membership could get you on the way to having that. But it's true. There's so many new options, is my point, out there, through memberships, through different organizations that I believe that that's something that every young entrepreneur should get into as quick as possible. Not just accountability groups and coaching. Great. Yes, absolutely. But I don't think that's enough is my point, because when you're in a peer group where you can compare and say, okay, I use these 5 programs, but these 2 just, they're not cutting it for me. When you're able to have that conversation, it makes such a difference. Yes. Yeah. So you want to become almost like a business in a box model for younger entrepreneurs within your industry.
So they really have the ability to scale.
Yeah, that's
there's enough money out there, man. Everybody can make their millions.
I totally agree. And I think that is a wonderful project, and we're here to support you when you start that venture. The only thing that we ask is that you come back on the podcast so you get to like do the whole put on the party hat and feel proud of yourself. Yes, because we love celebrating those moments with entrepreneurs within our group too, because again, that's that support system, and not only that, but to show you are doing it. Like you're like, this is going to be my next step. We love it. We absolutely love it, and we totally support you on that too.
Thank you.
Definitely. Lee, did you want to ask her any additional questions?
No.
You're enjoying listening, aren't you?
I am. Every single podcast, I just soak it all in. That's what I do. I do my little part at the beginning, and I just soak all the wonderful business information. And I love being part of this, because you hear so many stories and you hear so many experiences, and I hope that the group that we have get the same lessons out of it, I guess is the word I might want to use. But you are teaching us through your experience. And I hope that everyone who listens really gets that same thing, because, there's things that we don't know as, a person who's just starting out. I don't know what's ahead of me. I don't know what experiences, what difficulties, what, roadblocks I'm going to come across. But listening to you and a couple other guests that we have who have been able to get to that point, and to know how they were able to get past it is such a wonderful education. And I just hope that everyone who listens to these podcasts get that same level of education from it.
Definitely.
So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, I think you just rounded that out perfectly. What are you talking about that? I don't have anything to say. Simone, just so you know about Lee, that she always acts very humble, and she is. That's the thing, is it truly is genuinely humble, okay, with her. And then she pulls out beautiful stuff, like every single time. So she just like kind of shows up, and she's like, no, I'm good. And then she does that every time. Well,
and then I surprised myself. I was like, where did that come from? That wasn't even it. That wasn't even up here when I started talking.
Well, you're consistent is, I guess, the point I'm trying to make, and the compliment somehow in there, that you are very consistent with your follow through. Simone, she actually does a great job too of taking lessons like this when she listens and hears these things firsthand, and then she'll use them later in conversations or down the road in a live, things like that. I'm like, when did you come up with that? She's like, oh, I've been thinking about it ever since. She's so good about reflecting on these occasions. And I will tell you, Lee, I'm quite jealous that, you getting all this support, jealous in a good way, all this support from all these female entrepreneurs is just truly a blessing. And I know you know that. Like, I'm not saying it to you in that way. I'm a little jealous. I wish I would have had this 20 years ago. I bet Simone wishes she would have had this. Yeah. So and again, to your point, Simone, of something that we can create with all of the amazing tools that we have nowadays to support other female entrepreneurs. Yeah. So thank you for being a part of this today with us, Simone. You are always such a joy to talk to. We honestly always have fun when we talk to you. And we do have to point out the incredibly beautiful captain you chose for the pajama portion of the conversation. So I'm serious. Like I wasn't teasing when I said I'm coming out to go shopping with you, because like that.
Come on down. I would love it.
It is beautiful. So thank you for being here with us today. We are honored by you giving us some of your time, and we just absolutely think you're so amazing to talk to every single time.
I love talking with you both. And it
Well,
is my
thank you. Thank you. Well, Lee, do you want to go ahead and tell Simone what you normally say at the very end of these?
Yes. So if we can do it, you can do it. So thank you so much, everyone. And again, I know we've thanked you a million times, Simone, but believe me, we really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience with us. So everyone, take care. Talk to you later.